All right, the pretty little AI lady tells me that the recording is started. Welcome to Bolded Slugs. My name is Zeus Ryan. Hi. How you doing, Sam? Tell the
I'm
hedge folk how you are.
I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be here.
Great. I appreciate that you decided to come on because I have followed you on the tweaks, the Twitter. I refuse to call it by its singular letter because it's stupid.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show was in a world uh, of make believe, right? We make movies, we make TV, we make fake stuff, right?
hmm
Uh the level of authenticity and like genuine human existence that you seemingly bring to the table through your Twitter, I have always long admired, and I just wanted to ask you if you know that you do that. I mean, is I'm not asking you if it's like a game or
No,
whatever, but do
no.
you just know that it comes across like this is just a real dude?
Um, in some ways, the thing that I get a lot of comments on, usually in DMs or something, is one of the things. So, like, I have a background in social work. I'm actually halfway through my master's in social work. It's a cause I care about. But one of the things is kind of like men's emotional health. Because I grew up in an area in a time where it's like you didn't talk about it, you just you feel things or you don't even feel them, you just push them down and you drink it or you know whatever, just never acknowledge it. And as I got older, I realized it's not good. It's bad. It's very bad for people. And
Right.
so a lot of the things that I tried to do is be like show myself, like talk about like, yeah, I cried today because of X, Y, and Z. And like a lot of people who've reached out to me were like other men. Because like I know this is an audio podcast, can't see me, but like I'm a pretty big guy. I can be intimidating. So when I talk about like my emotions or crying or being open about that stuff, a lot of people, especially these men, were like, "Man, I didn't know like you were like that." And it's like it gives me some like hope or I don't know, just like almost letting the door open that like, well, maybe I can be this way. Like I don't have to like bottle up this pain anymore.
For
And
sure.
that's what I've talked to some of good friends on Twitter or people I've met where I would spend, maybe a day or two talking with them, be like, hey, you don't have to. You don't have to feel this way. Like you can you can be a healthy emotional individual. And I understand it takes time and it is a hard, difficult process, but I'm like,
Mhm.
it's one that anyone can do. I did it and I came from a pretty rough background. So I don't know.
You know,
I know sorry.
oh no, you're good. I was just gonna say I understand and relate to that because I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Iowa, and we get a lot of the big boys don't cry, ball it up stuff. And to a degree, it's kind of like, man, I could have been open and honest this whole time and saved myself and potentially other people a significant amount of potential harm, trauma, grief, whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
shit, I've been doing it wrong this whole time.
Yeah. It took me till I was about 30 to figure that out. And I'm glad I did. Like I'm in a really good place now. And it's one of those like even it's still hard though. It's work every day. And because like that, even now, like there's times I don't want to cry or talk about my feelings or feel a pain that comes through. But I do because I know the alternative is going back. And I can't because it was just so hurtful, not just for me, but like you said, friends, family, loved one, my kid, like in some ways I'm very, I don't know, happy slash envious of my kid because my kid only knows his dad as like open and friendly and emotional. Like,
Right?
they don't know me how I used to be. So and that's how it was with my dad. My dad was very cut off, machismo, tough, and that's how I grew up. And I don't like it.
I kind of wish I got the machismo thing. My dad isn't ever going to listen to this podcast. He doesn't know what podcasts are, so I don't have any problem saying this publicly. But I got the taciturn, stoic, like no words guy,
Mhm.
so to a degree I'm kind of like, is you play the trauma Olympics of it all, right? Did I get it worse? Did I get it better?
Yeah.
Because he never yelled at me, but he never said anything.
Yeah.
But the end result was the same of, this all still feels very weird and very wrong. How do I process that? And then later on, when you've become parents, it's like, oh, I know what not to do. I'm
Mhm.
not qualified to do it any other way other than the opposite of what I was raised on.
Yeah.
Let's see if that works. you
Yeah.
know
And that's kind of what I did. For me, I do almost everything the opposite of what my dad did. And so far it's been working pretty well. Like my kid is very happy, healthy. They're very comfortable talking with me about, sensitive subjects. Things like they'll talk to me about things where like I remember one day they asked me something and I thought I would have never asked my dad this question. Because
right?
he would have hit me. So
Just wow.
yeah, and so that's what I'm very happy. But like as going back to your original question, yeah. So like I don't I don't purposely like go out to be like I'm gonna be the realest person on Twitter, but I I do this because I feel it's important, and hopefully like that these you know dozen or so guys that I've talked to, hopefully it changes their lives in some way, even if they don't, it just at least cracks the door open for them, and that's all I can do. And that's kind of like, the social work part of, we I use this phrase a lot where it's like all I can do is provide opportunity and match your willingness. Like I can kind of show you what I'm doing and I can talk you through it, but it's ultimately you got to make those choices to step through the door. And if you
Wow,
do,
I'm
great.
super
I'll
glad I recorded this because I'm totally stealing that phrase. That Wow, that's powerful. That's really good stuff. Wow.
and I mean we'll have to credit it to my social work mentor Sherry. She's the one who taught me that. But like it's something I use all the time. But I mean and hopefully that's what I can provide is like, if you're willing to work through it and talk, like yeah, I'm here for you. But like I'm only going to do it as much as you want to do it because I can't force you. I can't force you to be quote unquote a better person. You have to want that. And I'll admit it's hard. It's hard to want to change that because even when it hurts you, comfortable is easier than
Ooh.
change, you know.
Complacency, comfort can
Yeah.
be just as much a trap as anything else.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I feel that because and not circling back, but kind of framing it in terms of the art of it all.
Hmm.
Um, there is historically a sentiment that a lot of people think is true. The whole uh art is suffering, trauma, you have to expose it on the page and stuff. Where do you come down on that, knowing what you've been through? Do you mind that for material, or is that a bridge too far?
Well, for one, I don't think art is suffering. Like, so like example, people will be like, oh, you got to be the poor starving artist and blah blah blah. I'll tell you what, like I do a lot more writing when I'm like I know my bills are paid and I got food in the kitchen and my kids got shoes. I do way better because I'm not worrying about everything else. Like, you know, um, I don't know. That's the part of it I don't agree with. Um, just because like that, I grew up, it was pretty rough, like pretty poor, things like that. And it's a hard thing to focus on art. And even when I was working at the shelter, running the shelter, which was a very draining on emotions and your mental capacity. I didn't do really any writing in that 4 year, 5 year period, just because
Okay.
like I just didn't. I was taking care of so many people. I didn't want to think about other stories and things like that. I was just so focused on surviving and getting through the next day. Like I just never really wrote a lot, and it's because I was just in this like I don't know, this mode of like that's the only way I can put it, just survival of trying to just like get through the next day. Because and I understand like where I was working is a lot more extreme than most people because like we're dealing with clients who are deep into substance dependency and mental health crisis and death, and I'm being attacked and things like that. But yeah, I for that part of it, yeah, I don't agree with that. I think trauma, in my mind, it can do one of two ways. It either hardens you or it makes you a more empathetic person. And I think you kind of make those choices. A lot of people, they usually become more empathetic because like it's almost like what hard is. And for me, having gone through a lot of that, it's like, yeah, it's only like I have to be nice because like
Right.
it's so the other option isn't. I'm not going to be mean to people because like so the form of social work that I was in school for and working on, it's called trauma informed care. And basically trauma informed care is realizing pretty much everyone has some form of trauma, and you're just like meeting them where they're at. Like you can't expect someone who lives on the street and is hungry to like create a bunch of art. Maybe they can, and that's great, but like probably not, because like
Hmm.
that's not their sole purpose, or not purpose. It's not their drive, because like they're worried about, well, where am I going to sleep, where am I going to eat.
They got
That
other things going on. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like that it's hard. And like I said, when I was working in the shelter, that I still had a home and stuff, and I'm lucky for that, but like just being so drained emotionally and mentally, like you don't want to create. Even like this last like writer's strike, there was some people talking like, oh, maybe we should like people should like shoot their own stuff while it's going on, which I agree with. It's great, but it's like I have a lot of friends who are like in film production, and we talked about it, but we're all so busy surviving. It's so hard to like wrangle everyone up and shoot a short film, or
Yeah.
because it's like we got kids, and like we need to work, and like some of my friends aren't working and they're worried, so they're picking up second jobs, and the last thing they want to do is like, all right, let's like go shoot this little short film or whatever it may
let's
be.
do
So
let's do a 12, 14, 16 hour bender over a weekend. Like,
exactly, it's
yeah,
hard, it's really hard.
I've had people on the show, that have kids and have lives in the 9 to 5, and the notion that art, because I think most of us artists, creative types, we want this to be like the thing that sustains us. we
Yes.
would we would like if there weren't other things getting in the way, that the only thing I have to worry about today is, you know location scouting, or how many pages can we shoot today, getting setups, whatever. So
Hmm.
where do you find then either the time or, say, the mental bandwidth to be like, okay, no, I have something in me, I got to get it out, amongst all of the other things that you're dealing with? Where is it a priority? Is it a list? Like, where do you find the art comes out?
For me, it's like I have to learn to do routine, and like because I feel like with everything that's going on in my life, a lot of my time is eaten up at work or with the kid, or so I have to kind of stick to a more regimented routine. So if I want to shoot something, which there's something like me and my friends actually do want to shoot some stuff, it's something we have to, it's like I kind of have to schedule out and set aside that time, because like if not, it's not like it was when I was like in college, where it's like, yeah, we're all in the sauce together and we're all just like bullshitting around. Um, so yeah, I made a lot of short films in college because like we're in it all the time. But now in the real world, it's just like it's more difficult because like I said, like, I got my kid full time, and like
Mm-hmm.
they live with me, and like I gotta help them with their day. We gotta do all this stuff. Like, and then even like that, if I am shooting stuff, because I've shot some stuff for work, and I brought my kid to the set to like, kind of just be there because,
Just take it
mom,
in, yeah.
yeah, and plus, like mom's busy or whatever. So um it's hard, it's really hard to like focus, and I'm trying to like do my thing and like because I'm in front of camera or whatever, but I am also like thinking of, oh well, where's my kid at, like, and they're a good kid, like, but still it's just like a lot of it for me is just like I have to it's like I have to set aside time. And I'm always worried about like, will I have like the money to do it. So I have to like kind of look and be like, okay, we can shoot this short film over a weekend, but it's like I know I can because like I have my bills paid and everything like that,
Mhm.
and we all schedule time and it's set in the calendar because like I just can't jump up and go like I used to. It's just like not as possible as it used to be.
And the weird thing is, because I had a similar experience when I was in theater school, was the notion was, well, you're not doing anything, I'm not doing anything, let's just go do something. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't really even a question, because you were all, like you said, you were all in the sauce together. So it wasn't that hard to be like, well, I need 5 or 6 people, I'm going to go do a thing. A couple phone calls later, or you elbow
Yeah,
someone who's passed out on the couch, whatever,
yeah,
and you're up and running. And then now it's like, well, fuck, that's, ooh, there's, that's a big ask. Or,
yeah,
who's getting babysitting? Who's, are you free this
exactly.
weekend? No, I'm pulling to double or whatever.
Yep.
So in terms of like the material that you make or want to, or whatever you're working on, where do you where do you think it fits kind of in the landscape of things today, especially post strike? I lean on the side of like, let's get new stuff, let's get new voices. I'm kind of like sitting here as a middle-aged white dude. I'm kind of tired of seeing my face everywhere. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
we've been there. Can we get something
yeah.
different? Is that kind of what where you're after, or is it just kind of more organic? Like, I tell the stories that I tell, and they find a place. They find a place.
For me, like I do agree with you. Like if you're sick of looking at your face, just imagine me. No, I'm just kidding.
Right, right. That's I
No,
kind of feel like we are a little late on that.
yeah,
Pale white guys. Like, oh yeah, I see what you guys have been saying this whole time.
yeah. But I mean, for me, it's like that was the thing. Like there was that kind of. So I'm obviously for your listeners, I'm Native American. I'm Dene. Um, it was really great because there was that little boon of like there was a lot of native shows. There was Reservation Dogs, the comedy one. Now I can't think of it.
Oh God, the sad thing is, like, the only reason I am aware of it is because it got canceled,
Yeah,
and
and,
that
and and
that
it did get
sucks. But it's like, no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah. I can't think of what it's called now.
The list the
Rufus
listeners are
Prince.
just shouting at us right now.
Yeah,
It's like, how can you not know what that is?
yeah. But there was that show. There was Rutherford Falls. That's what it was
Oh
called.
yeah, yeah. There we go.
Rutherford Falls. There was Rutherford Falls, Reservation Dogs. There's the Dark Winds. There's all these shows, and it was really great. And then all of a sudden, they all kind of got canceled or
Mm-hmm.
left. I mean, I think Dark Winds is still going, but it was really amazing to see that. So for me, and it was also very inspiring. So for me, it's like I've always a lot of the stuff I've written have always had like a I guess you want to call it a social conscious edge because that's my world. Like so example, my race, ethnicity, whatever you want to call it, like I have to think about it every single day because like when I go out my day, my interactions, a lot of it is race based. Like, if I'm
Right.
in a store, sometimes security just follows me. Like it's stuff I have to think about. So for my writing, even if it's like about giant monsters or really fantastical things, there's always this element of um this socially conscious. I know a lot of people get mad at the term woke, but I feel like that's kind of where I sit because that is my world, that is where I live. And so the stories I'd like to tell have that kind of element of like you can tell a fun story, but also you can still educate. Like and people who are like, well, I don't want politics in my movies or whatever, it's like, well, then you're an idiot because all art is political, even
Have
art
you ever
that's
seen a
not.
movie before?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like even art that's not being political is a political stand. So it's like I don't know, I feel like that's where I sit with my personal art. And then also, yeah, I would love to see new voices because like and I don't know. I hope it changes because I think as we're seeing now, a lot of the tried and true measures of film and television are failing, and I think a lot of these studios hopefully, I mean, I don't have a lot of hope, but hopefully they kind of see that and be like, oh, okay, no one wants to see, you know, Chris Evans all the time or whatever. Like maybe we need new people,
For
new
sure.
voices to tell these stories. And like I would really love that. Of all different, you know, races and disease and all that. Like I remember I would sometimes donate my time and help. There was this high school that was like at risk youth. You know, a lot of natives, a lot of black kids, Mexicans, Polynesians, LGBT. And that was the thing. I would always just go in there and kind of like talk to them about their writing and do what I could and just encourage them as much as I could. But I would always try to tell them like your voice is important and it matters. And even if like you never do anything with the story, the fact that you wrote it is important. And like it needs to be out there. And just no matter what happens in your life, even if you don't become a writer, like just know your voice is important and your stories are important. And that's how I feel. It's like I think those are the voices and the stories we need to start looking at is outside of, you know, Harvard or whatever these like big, you know,
It's a pay to play system,
it
and
is.
generally the people that can do that are, I mean,
Yeah.
quite frankly, they're just straight up white people, you know.
Yeah,
And
you know, it's like when you look at these new writers that come out and then you look them up on the internet or something, then you see like in Wikipedia they have blue highlighted parents because it's like, oh, my dad is like some, you know, runs Ford or whatever. And it's like, oh yeah, of course you can be a writer and actor because you have time. You can just do it. Like
the
you
old
don't,
joke that I've got an uncle who owns Netflix, like it's a
yeah,
joke, but it's also kind of
yeah.
not.
It's very true. Cause like, and it is hard to compete with those people because it's like they just have time to focus on their art. Whereas like that, if you compared me to one of them, like when I was working at the shelter, yeah, they're gonna be better because like I'm not working on my art because I can't. I'm just so drained and focused on my other job that I have to pay for my bills and for my kid and all this stuff. Whereas they can just like, yeah, I'm gonna go wherever to Europe and work on my screenplay. It's like cool. I wish I could.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to leave my house today, but
Yeah,
you have fun in Paris shooting, you know, this
yeah,
thing you just thought of. Yeah.
yeah,
It bothers me that the conversation about representation gets to a point where you're like, people think voices are being taken away. You know,
mhm,
everybody seems to think it's subtractive when it's like, no, it's additive. Like
mhm.
the white voices are still going to be there
Yeah,
for, I
yeah.
don't know, however many more years before we're not the majority anymore. So I think it's like 15. You know, statistically, I think the number is
Yeah,
around like 2040 or something is when that
yeah,
scale tips. And I'm like, we've had our run. Like, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
no. How
Yeah,
about we start thinking about somebody else and find a way to relate to those stories? Because at the end, we're all human, you
yeah,
would think. And the idea that that is, like you said, woke or progressive or just inclusive to the detriment of somebody else. It's like, no, white people are going to have their stories, but like,
yeah,
how about we not have them be 98 out of 100? How about
yeah,
maybe we drop it to like 60? Wouldn't
yeah.
that be neat, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
I
as a guy
totally
who
agree.
sees my face on screen all the time, I don't necessarily care about representation because I can just say, well, I don't like that actor. I don't like that person. And I wonder if that's a privilege that I have when
I
you're,
think I believe in a way it is because like I actually there was a friend of mine we did a little he I was like in his little YouTube video about Game Boy games and I talked about representation because we were talking about fighting games, and I brought up the character of T-Hawk from Street Fighter, which I don't know if you know this character, but they are, for lack of a better word, the most stereotypical Native American character you could possibly imagine. They're big, war paint, feather, jean jacket with fringe, boots, like it's bad. But when I was growing up, I absolutely loved this character because it was something that was like me. Like even though it was like wildly, and some people even say like it's a wildly offensive character, yeah, it is. But to 7, 8-year-old me who walks
Hmm.
into the grocery store and sees this character, my God, like it was amazing. Because and of course that's the character I played and got good with, because I'm like, yeah, this is me. And so like that representation not good, like that's all we have for like in video games. Like T-Hawk's like the only video game character for many, many years. And you take what you can get. And is it the best? No, far from it. But at least it's like ours. It's like this could be mine.
Right.
And so like, and I'm sure like native representation in movies is pretty terrible throughout, really up until like Reservation Dogs came out. Like it's pretty bad. But like growing up, like I grew up watching a lot of westerns with my grandma, and like we all loved the native characters, even though they were wildly offensive. Like one my grandma loved, and we would watch it all the time. It's an Italian spaghetti western called Navajo Joe, and like it's Burt
Okay.
Reynolds as a Navajo, and I mean it's just again wildly offensive.
Hey, if
But
if John Wayne can be Genghis Khan, Burt
yeah,
Reynolds can be Navajo Joe.
yeah. But I mean, for one, it is a fun movie, and I really enjoy it. But like, he's another character where it's like I really relate to this character because you know they are my people, quote unquote, even though it's not. But like a lot of like native people, and I'm not saying all, but a lot of them, we do kind of like attach to these characters that may or may not be the best, just because it's like that's all we got.
That's
Like
all you got. Yeah.
Navajo Joe, like he's a in the movie, like yeah, he's a native, he's a badass, he's like shooting people, he's doing just being like I said, he's just kicking ass constantly. So to us, it's like fuck yeah, like that's us, man, that's us. So like, even though now I like I said, if you ever have the chance to watch it, I'd say watch it, but like you'll watch it and be like, oh my god, like this is so bad.
Well,
But
because is it is it Burt Reynolds playing a character, or is it just Burt Reynolds that we're attaching ourselves to? You know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah, and it could be because I mean Burt Reynolds is fucking cool, but like, but like that he is like to me and my grandma. It's like I mean my grandma was like, oh yeah, like the way she would talk was like, yeah, he's Navajo, like almost like that's your uncle. So like
Right
to,
on.
to
Right on.
yeah, so to me it's like yeah, this character is cool because like he is me. Because a lot of the times when you see native characters, it's like John Wayne shooting them, and or they're very bad, and the way they talk, and it's just so I don't know. I think in a way, yeah, like being able to like and not like characters, and in a small way, is a very privileged take because like it's like for a native like that, it's like all right, you got three characters, and like all of them are just wildly offensive, but they still are like a representation of you in some aspect. So like I said, we kind of glom onto them because it's just like that's all we got.
It
So
it feels in a weird way like the parallel of you know I don't particularly like my family member or whatever because I know that they're an asshole, but nobody else is allowed to dislike them
hmm
because they're mine. And
yeah,
it's like it it does. It feels completely privileged for me to be like, well, I have, I'm spoiled for choice, so I don't have to make those distinctions. And I wonder if in 2023 of all years, like is this the year or the moment when things start finally opening up, or because the shows that we've named they got canceled, is that indicative of they're shutting down opportunity for those? Is because every single thing I saw about Rutherford Falls and about Res Dogs was absolutely positive. Everybody enjoyed it, and I'm looking at it like, well, then how did those get canceled? Because by every measurable metric they looked successful, so what was the deal? You know what I mean?
and that's the thing. I don't know. Like even as I'm starting to work more in the television industry, and as I'm wading through these waters, a lot of it really is like no one knows what they're doing. Everyone's just kind of flailing. Like I'm lucky to work with this guy Jeff Lieber, who's very prolific in television, and he's graciously been teaching me a lot of it. But it's like it's like, especially now with after the strikes and with streamers becoming bigger, it's almost like we when I talked to him one time, he was just like, it's changing drastically, and
Hmm.
he's like, it's different than when I first started, and it's different not in a good way, and it's like stuff like that. You're working with people, it's almost like they don't give a shit about the art or of like TV or movies,
I have
because like,
argued that publicly on Twitter for a very long time.
yeah,
I'm glad it just doesn't seem like the people in power give
well,
a fuck about
well, because
anything.
I think too, because you get a lot of these people who run these studios who are more of like numbers and money people, so like they don't like that, like Apple and Amazon, if they stop making movies and TV this minute, it doesn't matter. Like they still have iPhones and all the other stuff. They don't need it like other studios may. So like when you're dealing with that kind of mentality, it's almost like what gets through besides money and numbers? Because like
Hmm.
the old system of like, yeah, a show would maybe run 2 or 3 seasons because it's got to find its legs. But now on Netflix, it's like if it's not a hit day one, 100 million plus views, the first week, it's a it's a failure, quote unquote. And it's
Or
like,
even if it is, even
yeah,
if
yeah,
it is.
yeah. And they'll just, and where it's like in the old system, it wasn't like, it's like, yeah, you took, how many shows would have been canceled in the first few seasons if like the studios didn't take that chance, or like, well, it's got to find its legs, because they were probably ran by people who knew what they were doing. Like It's Always Sunny, that's a rough show the first 3 seasons, but it finds its legs and it gets better. Parks and Rec's the same, like rough
Same.
show
Yep.
those first couple seasons, rough, finds its legs. 30 Rock, Superstore, like all these shows, rough in the beginning, but they find their legs. But we're not giving shows the opportunity to do that, and I think that's what's kind of scary, is like it's almost like the industry is shrinking because they're just focused more on what sells, which is IP or established stuff. Which, I mean, yeah, maybe, but at the same time, I think that's also burning people out.
I would agree with I have nothing nothing to add to that because that's
Yeah.
a very astute way of encapsulating the market. Is it just for all of the wins that we thought a couple months ago we got? I'm sitting here not as a member of WGA or SAG,
Well,
so I
it's
say
not,
I say we,
yeah,
the
but
royal we, I guess.
you're still a writer.
But yeah, the survival of the industry was at stake for me and for you and for us to get to that position later because it was seriously in doubt if we would even have an industry to struggle
Yeah.
bus in.
Yeah,
So
there's some days where I'm like, is this even worth it? As I'm like writing a new script just for myself, I'm like, what's the fucking point? Like, it might not even be here. But but that's just my own personal
well, no,
thing.
and I don't argue with that, and that kind of leads me to the unnecessarily abrupt ham-fisted segue that I have still yet to figure out. So I'm just doing it this way. It's a segment I call "Pick a Fight,"
Yeah.
and it is something in the industry that you, as a writer, as a creative, are like, I fucking hate that, and I want it to go away. I don't like it. Um, if it's a person, if it's a place or a thing, and you want to pick a fight with it so that other people
Hmm.
don't have to suffer through it the way that either you have or are. What is it? Let's pick a fight.
For me, so I have a good 10 years in production, working, starting as a PA, working up into key grip gaffer. That's where I kind of landed outside of writing, producing. Um, so that being said, I don't know if this will fit, but like, I hate the whole, well, this is how it's done. You got to suffer. You got to eat shit. And like, until you get to a certain point where then you're expected to treat the younger people coming up like shit and stuff. I hate it. As coming up as a PA in reality TV, it sucked. I did it for 4 years. It was rough. And then when I finally started becoming key gaffer, I vowed I never treated my crew like that. Never ever. I was always one to take care of them, make sure they got their pay, all that stuff. I fought for them tooth and nail. I understood if they were green, there's no point. It's like, you don't know what a hi-hat is, you stupid fuck. No, it's like, you don't know what a hi-hat is? Let me show you. Here's where it's at on the truck. This is what we use it for. This is how we're using it in this scene. Let me show you how to build it and like, or set it up.
Right.
That's my attitude towards things now. So like when I'm on a set as like a key grip or a gaffer, that's how I run it. I don't pick fights with people. I don't let my ego get in the way, especially after working in the shelter where like I literally got stabbed and people would die. And now when I work on set, nothing bothers me because I'm just like, come on, guys, we're all playing pretend. Like this ain't fucking. It's
I'm,
not.
I'm over here fist pumping. The moment this goes to video, people are just going to start seeing me like react because, like, yeah, dude, it just doesn't it feel better to say it that way? To be like, no, let me show you. I learned it. I'm going to teach you. You don't know. Now you know.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe said knowing was half the battle.
Exactly. And I was lucky because one of the first good key grips I worked with was a guy named Tim Carr, did a lot of commercials. And he was that way. He was like, oh, you don't know why we do this? Well, let me show you. This is why we do it. Or we'd set it up. And then when we wait as they're filming, he would kind of explain to me, all right, this is why we lit it this way, or this is why we set these things up that way. And that always resonated with me. And then as I got more into the industry, I was like, I want to do that. I want to be this person. And that's what I do. So like it takes a lot for me to get angry, it takes a lot for me to yell. And a lot of times when I have gotten into arguments on set, it's because people were being stupid or unsafe or treating my crew negatively. So I would like argue with like a producer or the director. I'm like, no, you don't get to treat my crew like that. Fuck you. Like you apologize or eat shit, you know. That's the only time because like I don't like that. I mean, and again, like working in social work and especially working in domestic violence with domestic violence victims where I have to stand up to their abusers because maybe they can't. Maybe that's part of it. But because I mean I spent a lot of time doing that where it's like, no, you don't get to talk to her that way. Like you talk to me, you fucking piece of shit. Like you don't treat her that way. You're talking to me now. Like let's figure this out. So
got it. I love that. I
and
absolutely love that. The sad part of all of this is that I want to talk to you longer, but we're running out of time. And that this is just an excuse for me to get people back on the show. It's because I want to keep going. In the last minute that we have, where can people find you? Where can people find more of you and your mom dancing on Twitter? Where can that
really? I'm just on Twitter, which is Hosteen Cholo. That's me. I don't really have a lot of social media. I'm on Blue Sky, same thing, and I think I'm on Letterbox reviewing movies, same thing.
We'll look out for those. Post more of you like joyously dancing in the kitchen with your mom and your kid.
Will do.
I very much appreciate your time and being on the show, and I look forward to talking to you again in the future. Thank you very much, Sam.
Of course. Thank you.
Bolded Slugs, the podcast, would like to thank our partners at filmsnobbery.com for hosting our show. Today's music is Sublime by Ken Bashari from the Free Music Archive, licensed under Creative Commons. Bolded Slugs, the podcast, is a Dapper Duck media production.